The ultimatum commander Elena Vasquez stood at the observation deck of the neutral station, watching the stars through the reinforced viewport. The diplomatic station hung in the void between territories, a place where different species could meet without fear of territorial disputes. Today, however, Elena felt nothing but tension in the recycled air. Behind her, the conference room buzzed with the strange harmonic sounds of the Catharian language. The aliens had been talking among themselves for nearly an hour, their tall, crystalline forms creating an otherworldly melody as they communicated. Elena had learned to recognize the different tones during her years as a diplomat, but today their harmonies carried an edge she had never heard before. Captain Marcus Chang approached from the corridor, his military uniform crisp despite the long journey from Earth. His face showed the same concern Elena felt. "Any word from the Catharians?" he asked quietly. "Nothing yet," Elena replied, still watching the stars. "But their tone has changed. Something's different about this meeting, Marcus. They requested this conference urgently, and they brought more ships than necessary for a simple diplomatic exchange." Through the viewport, Elena could see the sleek vessels of the Catharian escort fleet. 20 ships hung motionless in space, their surfaces reflecting the light of distant stars. Each vessel was beautiful in its own way, with flowing curves and bioluminescent patterns that pulsed gently along their hulls. But Elena knew those graceful ships carried enough firepower to destroy entire cities. "Commander Vasquez," came a voice from behind them. Elena turned to see Ambassador Thexver approaching. The Catharian stood nearly 3 meters tall, his body composed of what looked like living crystal. Light moved through his translucent form in patterns that indicated his emotional state. Right now, those patterns were sharp and angular, sign of serious intent. "Ambassador," Elena replied with a respectful nod, "I hope we can begin our discussion soon. Earth is eager to continue our positive relationship with the Catharian Empire." Thexver's internal light shifted to deeper blues and purples. "Commander, I am afraid today's meeting will not be as pleasant as our previous encounters. Please, join us in the conference room. High Counselor Zeftai wishes to speak with you directly." Elena and Marcus exchanged glances. The High Counselor was one of the most powerful military leaders in the Catharian Empire. His presence here meant this was far more serious than a routine diplomatic meeting. The conference room was large and circular, designed to accommodate different species comfortably. Elena and Marcus took their seats at the human section of the table. All 5 Catharians arranged themselves on the opposite side. The air shimmered slightly as the universal translators activated, ensuring perfect communication between species. High Counselor Zeftai was larger than the other Catharians, his crystalline form darker and more imposing. Ancient scars ran through his crystal structure, marks of battles fought over centuries. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. "Commander Vasquez," he began, his words creating visible ripples in the air. "The Catharian Empire has called this meeting to address a serious violation of galactic law. Your species has illegally occupied worlds that belong to the Empire." Elena felt her heart rate increase, but she kept her expression neutral. "High Counselor, I'm not aware of any illegal occupation. All human colonies have been established on uninhabited worlds, with proper surveys conducted before settlement." The Catharian's internal light flared brighter, casting sharp shadows across the room. "Commander, the worlds you call New Horizon, Terra Verde, and Crimson Bay are ancient Catharian territories. They were marked as Empire property over 2,000 years ago." "With respect, High Counselor," Elena replied carefully, "our surveys found no evidence of previous habitation. No structures, no technology, no signs of intelligent life. These worlds were empty when we found them." Zeftai's form brightened further, and Elena could feel the heat radiating from him. Empty? Commander, do you understand nothing of Catharian? Culture? We do not build permanent structures on sacred worlds. We preserve them in their natural state, visiting them only for our most important ceremonies. Marcus leaned forward slightly. High Counselor, surely there must be some record of these claims? Some way to verify the boundaries of your territory? Captain Shun, Zeftai said, his attention shifting to Marcus. The Catharian Empire has controlled this region of space since before your species discovered fire. We do not need to justify our ancient rights to newcomers. Elena took a deep breath. She had been expecting something like this, but not on this scale. 3 human colonies held over 4 million settlers. These weren't just outposts. They were thriving communities with families, schools, and entire generations who had never known any other home. High Counselor, she said, even if we accept your claims, these worlds now hold 4 million human citizens. They have built homes, raised families, created communities. We cannot simply abandon them. The Catharian leader's light dimmed to a cold, threatening glow. Commander, the Catharian Empire is not negotiating. We are informing you of our decision. Your people have 48 hours to evacuate these worlds completely. After that time, we will implement the Purge Protocol. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. The Purge Protocol was something she had only heard whispered about in intelligence reports. It was the Catharian Empire's ultimate solution to territorial disputes, complete annihilation of all life on contested worlds. High Counselor, she said, her voice steadier than she felt, surely you cannot be serious. The Purge Protocol would mean the deaths of millions of innocent people. Commander, your people are not innocent. They are invaders who have defiled sacred Catharian territory. The Purge Protocol is not only justified, it is required by our most ancient laws. Marcus stood up slowly, his hand moving instinctively toward his sidearm. Elena placed a restraining hand on his arm, but she understood his reaction. The Catharians had just threatened genocide. High Counselor, Elena said, standing as well, I cannot agree to the evacuation of 4 million people. In 48 hours. It is physically impossible, and even if it were not, we would not abandon our citizens to satisfy your claims. Seftai's form flared with brilliant light, and when he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. Commander, you seem to believe you have a choice in this matter. Let me clarify the situation for you. He gestured, and the room's display screens activated, showing images from space around the 3 human colonies. Elena felt her blood turn cold as she saw the ships, hundreds of them, arranged in perfect formation around each world. The Catharian Empire has deployed 57 warships to your colonies, Zeftai continued. Each vessel carries enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Your colonies have no military protection beyond a few patrol ships and some automated defense platforms. The images shifted to show the human settlements from orbit. Elena could see the cities, the farms, the schools where human children were probably sitting in classrooms at this very moment, unaware that their entire world was under threat. High Counselor, Elena said, her voice tight with entrolled anger, what you're describing is not a territorial dispute. It's genocide. The galactic community will never accept such actions. Commander, the galactic community respects strength. The Catharian Empire has ruled this region for millennia. Your species has been in space for less than a century. Who? Do you think the galaxy will support? Elena looked at the images of her people's homes, their lives, their futures. She thought of the children playing in the parks of New Horizon, the farmers working the fields of Terra Verde, the researchers studying the unique ecosystems of Crimson Bay. She thought of her own daughter, who had been born on Terra Verde and knew no other home. Asterisk. High Counselor, she said, her voice carrying a steel that surprised even her. "I will not agree to the evacuation. Our people will not abandon their homes." The Catharian leader's light dimmed to an ominous red glow. "Commander, you are condemning your people to death. The Purge Protocol will commence in exactly 48 hours. Nothing in this galaxy can stop it." "Perhaps," Elena replied, "but we won't make it easy for you. And we won't abandon our people." Marcus activated his communication device. "This is Captain Chun to the escort ship Liberty. Send an emergency transmission to Earth. Priority Alpha. Protocols. The colonies are under immediate threat." Zeftai watched this with what might have been amusement. "Captain, by the time any help arrives from Earth, your colonies will be sterile worlds. The Catharian Empire moves swiftly when sacred laws are violated." Elena stood straight, drawing on every bit of military training she had ever received. "High Counselor, you have delivered your ultimatum. I have given you our answer. Unless you have something else to discuss, I believe this meeting is over." The Catharian leader rose to his full height, his crystalline form casting prismatic shadows across the room. "Commander Vasquez, you have 47 hours and 32 minutes remaining. Use them wisely. Perhaps you will reconsider when you see the first demonstrations of Catharian power." As the Catharians filed out of the conference room, Elena slumped back into her chair. Marcus was already working on his communication device, sending detailed reports to Earth about the situation. "Elena," he said quietly, "what do we do? Even if Earth sends everything they have, it would take weeks to get here. And what could we send that would make a difference against 57 warships?" Elena stared at the display screens, still, showing the Catharian fleet surrounding her people's homes. "I don't know, Marcus, but I know we can't give up. Somewhere in this galaxy, there are 4 million human beings who are counting on us to protect them." Hours passed in a blur of desperate communications. Elena sent messages to every human colony, every Earth government department, every ally humanity had made in their short time among the stars. Most of the responses were sympathetic, but offered little real help. The other species in the galaxy respected the Catharian Empire's power and were not willing to risk their own worlds for humanity. As the deadline approached, Elena found herself back at the observation deck, watching the stars. Marcus joined her, bringing news that made her heart sink even further. "The Catharians have started their demonstrations," he said quietly. "They've destroyed 3 uninhabited moons in the Terran system. The colonists can see the explosions from their cities." Elena closed her eyes, imagining the terror her people must be feeling. Any word from Earth? Nothing yet. "But Elena, even if they send the entire fleet, we don't have enough ships to fight the Catharian Empire. Our best estimates put their total fleet at over 3,000 vessels." "I know," Elena replied, "but we can't give up. Human beings don't abandon their own." As if in response to her words, the station's long-range sensors began detecting something. Approaching from the direction of Earth, Marcus checked his instruments, his face showing confusion. "Elena, there's something coming. Large energy signature, but I can't identify it. It's not matching any ship configuration in our databases." Elena felt a spark of hope. "How long until it gets here?" "At its current speed, maybe 6 hours." "But, Elena, it's just one ship. Whatever it is, it's alone." Elena looked out at the stars, wondering what Earth had sent to face the might of the Catharian Empire. Whatever it was, she prayed it would be enough. In the distance, space itself seemed to shimmer as something massive approached through the darkness between stars. The Catharian fleet had detected it too, and their ships were beginning to move into defensive positions. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. The reckoning 6 hours later. The unknown ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. At the edge of the system, Elena watched through the observation deck as space itself seemed to bend around the new arrival. When the distortion cleared, she found herself staring at something that defied belief. The ship was massive beyond anything she had ever seen. It stretched over 3 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull, a dark gunmetal gray that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The vessel was angular and purposeful, with no decorative elements or unnecessary curves. It looked like it had been designed for one purpose: war. "Marcus," Elena whispered, "what is that thing?" Captain Shun was frantically working his instruments, trying to identify the vessel. "I've never seen anything like it. It's not in any of our databases. The energy readings are off the charts. This thing is putting out more power than our entire fleet combined." On the Catharian ships, similar scenes of confusion were playing out. The aliens had detected the approaching vessel hours ago, but none of their sensors could identify it. The ship's technology was unlike anything they had encountered in there. Millennia of space travel. High Counselor Zeftai stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crystal Harmony, watching the unknown vessel with growing concern. His subordinates were reporting energy readings that made no sense according to known physics. "Military Commander Veltar," he said to his second-in-command, "what do you make of this vessel?" Veltar was younger than the High Counselor, his crystalline form showing the rapid light patterns of anxiety. "High Counselor, our sensors cannot penetrate its hull. The energy signatures suggest weapon systems far beyond our technology level. But surely it must be some other species intervening." "No," Zeftai replied, his light dimming as he studied the tactical displays. The vessel approached from human space. Somehow, impossibly, this is a human ship. Before Veltar could respond, their communication systems activated. A new voice filled the bridge, calm, authoritative, and unmistakably human. "Catharian vessels, this is Admiral Sarah Cross of the Terran Defense Corps, commanding the TDS Prometheus. You are in violation of interstellar law by threatening civilian populations. Withdraw immediately." On the diplomatic station, Elena felt her knees go weak with relief. The Terran Defense Corps was Earth's most secretive military organization, rumored to work on projects that were classified far above her security level. If they had sent a ship, it meant Earth was taking this threat seriously. Zeftai's response was immediate and filled with indignation. "Unknown human vessel, you are entering Catharian space without permission. One ship cannot stand against the might of the Empire. Withdraw or be destroyed." Admiral Cross's reply was as cold as the space between stars. "High Counselor, I am not here to negotiate. You have threatened genocide against 4 million human civilians. You have 30 minutes to begin withdrawing your forces. After that, I will consider your presence an act of war." The Catharian leader's form blazed with angry light. "Human, you dare to threaten us? We have 57 warships in this system. You have one vessel, no matter how large. The mathematics are simple. High Counselor, I suggest you reconsider your mathematics. This is your only warning." Elena watched the tactical displays with growing amazement. The human ship was not retreating, not trying to negotiate, not showing any sign of being intimidated by the massive alien fleet. Instead, it was moving steadily toward the center of the system, directly toward the largest concentration of Catharian ships. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. "Elena, that ship is heading straight for the enemy fleet. Either Admiral Cross has completely lost her mind, or that vessel is carrying weapons we can't even imagine." On the human colonies, 4 million people watched the skies with desperate hope. Governor James Rivera of New Horizon was coordinating with the other colony. Leaders trying to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. "People of the colonies," he broadcast across all 3 worlds, "this is your governor. A Terran Defense Corps vessel has arrived to protect us. I don't know what's going to happen, but I want you to know that Earth has not abandoned us. Whatever happens, we face it together." The children in the schools stopped their lessons to watch the sky. The farmers left their fields. The researchers abandoned their experiments. 4 million human beings held their breath as one ship moved to challenge. An entire fleet, asterisk. Zeftai watched the human vessel approach with growing unease. His tactical officers were reporting energy readings that made no sense. The ship's shields were unlike anything in their databases, and its weapon systems were completely unknown. "High Counselor," Veltar said, "perhaps we should reconsider. If this vessel represents new human technology, attacking it might be unwise." "Military Commander," Zeftai replied, "the Catharian Empire does not retreat from inferior species. Signal the fleet. All ships prepare for combat. We will destroy this vessel quickly and proceed with the Purge Protocol." Elena watched in horror as the Catharian ships began moving into attack formation. 57 warships arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around the lone human vessel. Each alien ship was a masterpiece of engineering, armed with weapons that could level cities. "Admiral Cross," Elena transmitted, "this is Commander Vasquez. You're surrounded. There has to be another way." The Admiral's response was calm and assured. "Commander, thank you for your work here. But this is no longer a diplomatic matter. Please stand by and observe." The Catharian fleet opened fire. Space erupted in a display of destructive force that could be seen from the colonies. 57 ships unleashed everything they had: plasma cannons, particle beams, quantum torpedoes, and weapons that had no names in human languages. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. When the energy discharges faded, Elena expected to see debris where the human ship had been. Instead, she saw the TD-shaped Prometheus hanging in space, completely undamaged. Its shields had absorbed the entire attack without even flickering. "Impossible," Zeftai whispered. "No ship can withstand that much firepower." Admiral Cross's voice filled the communication channels again. "High Counselor, that was your demonstration. Now, let me show you mine." The human ship moved with impossible grace for something so massive. Its weapon systems came online with a sound like thunder across the void. Elena watched in awe as the vessel's hull reconfigured itself, revealing weapon ports that glowed with contained energy. "All Catharian vessels," Admiral Cross announced, "final warning. Withdraw or face the consequences." Zeftai's pride would not allow retreat. "All ships, continue attack. Destroy that vessel." The Catharian fleet fired again, pouring everything they had into the human ship. Again, the shields held without strain. This time, the TDS Prometheus fired back. What happened next redefined Elena's understanding of space warfare. The human ship didn't fire a barrage of weapons. It fired precisely, surgically, with devastating efficiency. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the Prometheus, each one targeted with impossible accuracy. The first beam struck the shield generator of a Catharian cruiser. The ship's defenses collapsed instantly, leaving it vulnerable but not destroyed. The second beam disabled the weapon systems of another vessel. The third neutralized the engines of a third ship. Within minutes, the TDS Prometheus had systematically disabled half the Catharian fleet without destroying a single vessel. The alien ships hung helplessly in space, their crews unharmed, but their ships completely powerless. "High Counselor," Admiral Cross said, "I could have destroyed every ship in your fleet. Instead, I chose to disable them. This is the difference between human and Catharian tactics. We protect life, even the lives of our enemies." Zeftai stared at the tactical displays in shock. His mighty fleet, a pride of the Catharian Empire, had been neutralized by a single human ship. But more than that, the humans had shown mercy when they could have shown destruction. How? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. How is this possible? High Counselor, Admiral Cross replied, humanity has been preparing for this day since we first ventured into space. We knew we would eventually encounter species that might threaten our people. The Terran Defense Corps has spent decades developing weapons and defenses specifically for that possibility. Elena felt tears running down her face. The impossible had happened. One human ship had faced down an entire fleet and won without killing a single enemy. The colonies were safe. Admiral, she transmitted, how many ships like the Prometheus does Earth have? Commander, that information is classified. But I can tell you that the Prometheus is not unique. Earth takes the protection of its citizens very seriously. On his flagship, HFY was receiving reports from his disabled vessels. No one had been killed, but his ships were defenseless. The humans could destroy them all at will. Admiral Cross, he said, his voice carrying a respect that had not been there before. What are your terms? High Counselor, my terms are simple. Your fleet will withdraw from human space immediately. You will formally recognize human sovereignty over the colonies. And you will enter into diplomatic negotiations to prevent future conflicts. Elena held her breath. Would the proud Catharian leader accept these terms, or would he choose destruction over surrender? HFY looked around his bridge at his crew, then at the tactical displays showing his helpless fleet. Finally, he looked at the image of the human ship that had single-handedly defeated them. Admiral Cross, he said, the Catharian Empire accepts your terms. We will withdraw immediately and enter diplomatic negotiations. The relief that flooded through Elena was so intense she nearly collapsed. The colonies were safe. 4 million human lives had been saved by the arrival of one impossible ship. High Counselor, Admiral Cross said, I am glad we could resolve this peacefully. Commander Vasquez will represent humanity in the diplomatic negotiations. I trust you will treat her with the respect she deserves. As the Catharian fleet began its withdrawal, Elena watched the TDS Prometheus hang motionless in space. The ship that had saved them all was already preparing to leave, its mission complete. Admiral, Elena transmitted, thank you. You saved us all. Commander, this is what we do. No human is ever abandoned. No human settlement is ever left defenseless. The galaxy is learning that threatening humanity has consequences. Within hours, the news had spread throughout the galaxy. The mighty Catharian Empire, rulers of this region for millennia, had been defeated by a single human ship. Other species that had been considering their own moves against human colonies suddenly found themselves reconsidering. Elena stood once more at the observation deck, watching the stars. The crisis was over, but she knew the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity was no longer seen as a young, weak species to be pushed around. They were now recognized as a power to be respected. Marcus joined her, bringing news from Earth. Elena, we're getting reports from all over the galaxy. 3 other species have contacted Earth requesting diplomatic talks. They want to establish friendly relations. Elena smiled. Fear gets attention, but respect builds lasting relationships. What do you think will happen next? Elena looked out at the stars, where the TDS Prometheus was already disappearing into faster-than-light travel. I think the galaxy just learned that humanity protects its own. And I think that's a lesson that will make the universe a safer place for everyone. In the distance, the Catharian fleet was jumping to hyperspace, their ships repaired enough to make the journey home. Behind them, they left 4 million human beings who could sleep peacefully in their beds, knowing that somewhere, in the darkness between stars, ships like the Prometheus were keeping watch. The Terran response had been delivered. The galaxy had received the message. Humanity was here to stay. Asterisk.